Hey guys, what's up? So I wanted to hop on here and give my thoughts on this topic. Now, I'm sure all of you have heard about the Roe v. Wade thing and how about there's been a proposal draft and it was leaked and whatnot that would seek to overturn Roe v. Wade. Now, I do want to link several videos below. I'm going to link a video to the actual Justice Warrior. He did a really good video on this, I think, where he broke down kind of the legalities of Roe v. Wade and everything like that. That's kind of his expertise because he's a criminal justice major and talks about a lot of legal stuff and whatnot. So he did a good video on that. I will link it below. He doesn't really take a solid stance kind of either way on abortion. He's never really discussed it really on his channel. He's never done like a video on it. But even if you are strongly like pro-choice, I would still recommend like checking it out. He doesn't really take the pro-life position, but like, I'd still just recommend it. Just keep an open mind and whatnot. And then I'll also link below Styx Hexenhammer's video on it. He is pro-choice, but he kind of goes into the whole Roe v. Wade thing and what it can mean and whatnot. So I think that he did more of a stream, but I think that he did a good stream on it as well, where he talked about that. Now, I've made my opinions on abortion clear before. I have said that I am pro-choice. When I talked about the Texas heartbeat bill and whatnot, I was against it, and I think I've mentioned my stance several other times on this channel. And I would obviously be against overturning Roe v. Wade. So that's, if you want the short and sweet version, there you go. However, I try to take a bit of a different approach when it comes to the pro-choice position, because I think that a lot of the times the way that pro-choice people approach or argue their position is a little, I don't really care for it. I think it's kind of cringy a little bit sometimes. Now, obviously, yes, I ultimately believe that it is the final decision, the final choice should come to the woman, because she is the one bearing the pregnancy. However, I do not agree that men shouldn't be allowed to have a say. And I realize that it's really only it's kind of the fringe, sort of people that say that, but even still, you've even got some people who lean more to the moderate side who even will sometimes say that, or say that it's not, and I disagree with that. Like it or not, it takes two to make a pregnancy, and that potential child, living being, whatever you want to call it, growing inside the woman, is a part of the man as well, and he does have an investment in it too. So I think that he should be able to give an opinion, yay or nay. I'm not saying he should have the final choice. Like I said, I think the woman should have the final choice, but I'm just saying that I don't like this idea that, a man needs to shut up about the issue and not say anything, unless, of course, he's speaking in support of it, which is weird because same people say that men shouldn't say anything about it, but then, it's weird, whatever. And again, I went more into depth in the Texas heartbeat bill video about my reasoning for being pro-choice, and I'll give kind of a shortened version of it. But reason number one is I believe in as little taxes as possible. Taxation is theft to me. I don't care what you say. Taxation is theft. I think taxation is 100% theft. But because we have to pay taxes, I support as little taxation as possible. So, that's one reason why I take the pro-choice position. I think that when it comes to that, the pro-choice position is the most rational, pragmatic position that you can take. It's weird to me when I see people on the right who supposedly are for less taxes, but then, will think that, children that aren't even wanted should just be brought in anyways. And what happens when parents, mothers, whoever, have children that they can't afford? Government welfare and whatnot, which I'm not against. Like, if a single parent household really needs welfare, I'm not against welfare, but I don't think it should be on me and others to financially support someone else's mistake. I just don't. So I since I support as little taxes as possible, I support the pro-choice position. That's one reason why. It's not on me or anyone else to pay more in tax just because, of a mistake that you made. So, and plus, the adoption agencies, which don't always work, which is kind of my next reason, is I believe that being pro-choice is also being a pro-reduction of criminals. When you look at a lot of these kind of career-hardened criminals and whatnot, not all of them, but a lot of them tend to come from broken backgrounds. They were probably an unwanted child, so they grew up in probably not the best conditions. They probably went, from foster home to foster home. Again, not always the case, but with a lot of criminals, you will see that is the case. And saying that, I'm not saying that everyone who does go through that will become a criminal, but again, I am also pro-choice because I believe it'll reduce the number of criminals that we have. I think if a kid grows up knowing that they weren't wanted, or they grow up going into the system, into the adoption agencies and whatnot, and going from foster home to foster home, I think there's a good chance that we will see that happen. Again, not saying that everyone that goes through that will become a criminal inevitably or whatnot, but with a lot of these criminals, you do see that is the case. That they had a very screwed up childhood, very dysfunctional childhood, and so that's another reason why I take the pro-choice position. Because, again, I believe that it is the most pragmatic and rational position. I don't see why we should all have to support someone else's mistake. Now, and then I also want to address this, because, the other most common argument is that, it's the woman's body, it's the woman's choice. Now, I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm not saying that isn't the case. However, I do think that we have to acknowledge that at some point in the pregnancy, it isn't just the woman's body. And when it really comes down to it, my position is that abortion is necessary. It is necessary to maintain a free society. I think that, I don't think that the state or the government should be intervening in the medical decisions of anyone, including women, when it comes to abortion. But having said that, I think that, more pro-choice people need to approach the fact that at some point, yes, it is not just the woman's body. There is clearly another life in there at this point. Now, if it's early on in the pregnancy, like, a month or whatever, then yeah, it's basically like a plant. It's basically like it's essentially, yeah, I mean, it's not. But if it's like 4 months in, 5 months in, then at that point, yes, I mean, technically speaking, there is another life. So, and again, I say this as someone who takes the pro-choice position. I just think that it is a reality that more people on the pro-choice side need to own up to and face. But like I said, I believe that ultimately it is necessary. I don't think that anyone is going to sit here and say, again, aside from some fringe people, I don't think that anyone is going to sit here and say that abortion itself is a light topic. It's a very dark topic. It's a very dark, depressing, sad topic. And a lot of women who get abortions go through a lot. I know sometimes they even end up regretting it. It's not an easy issue to talk about. I think that there's a lot of grayness when it comes to this issue. A lot of, you could say philosophically or morally or whatever, when it comes to the issue of abortion. And I don't think that it's really talked about in that way from pro-choice or pro-life people. I think that, both sides kind of take a black and white position on it. And I think that the intricacies and the, I guess you could say, the intricacies and just the complexities of it should be discussed more. But yeah, I believe that ultimately it is necessary. And another thing that I want to say is that there seems to be when it comes again to the pro-choice side, there seems to be a lack of addressing the actual accountability. Now, again, I'm not saying that all pro-choice people say this, but some people who are pro-choice will say that, women need abortions. And when it's framed like that, it almost kind of sounds like when you say that a human being needs water to stay hydrated. They need water to survive. They need food to survive, to prevent themselves from starving. And that's just not the case with abortion, or with abortion, pregnancy. Yeah. Scatterbrained here for a second. Barring a unique circumstance, and I say unique in the sense that it's, not in the way it typically occurs, barring the circumstance of rape, which, when it comes to rape, I believe that, yes, women need the option to have an abortion. That's not arguable to me. If it's the result of a rape, then yes, to argue otherwise is just insanity to me. But barring rape and whatever other, abnormal circumstance, pregnancies happen as a result of a choice or lack of responsibility if you hadn't planned it. If you are, if two people, man and a woman obviously, if man and woman hook up or whatever and they decide to bump uglies and they don't take the necessary precautions to prevent an unwanted pregnancy and then it happens, that is on them. No one forced them to do that. That is on them. And to me, there needs to be more accountability there. Now, a person who is pro-life would take that and then say, therefore, they need to bear the pregnancy. Now, I don't think that, but I do think the accountability thing should at least be noted. Pregnancies happen as a result of choices, and sometimes irresponsible choices if a pregnancy wasn't planned in the first place. Now, I think when it comes to that, because a lot of people like to blame the man solely, but I think that when it comes to that, it's on both people. If you are going to, because let's be honest, people have sex, whether conservatives want to admit it or not, people have sex because it's fun, it feels good, whatever. That's the truth. People don't just have sex to procreate. That's just not how things are anymore. But when it comes to a situation like that, I think that it should be on both. I think that the man should be wearing a condom, and I think that the woman should be on some sort of birth control. I think the responsibility should be on both. It shouldn't just be on one person or the other, it should be on both. And if they don't take the precautions, that's on them. So pregnancies can be prevented. It almost gets to the point to where it seems like people are saying that, pregnancies just spontaneously occur. The solar eclipse happens and then all of a sudden half the women in the country are pregnant. That's not how it happens. Pregnancies happen because of an action that people decided to make. So I think that should be addressed more when arguing for the pro-choice side. And again, what a pro-life person would ultimately conclude, that you need to take responsibility and bear it. I say that although, the accountability, yes, is on the people who caused this, it is still necessary, because that would be one scenario where you are bringing a kid into this world who was obviously not planned, and depending on the severity of the situation, not wanted. And they either end up growing in a home where eventually they'll find that out. Maybe they grow up in the home and the parents are fine and raise it and end up, they might regret it at first, but then over time they begin to realize that, it's a great thing that happened to both of them. But if it's not, and the parents resent the kid, it won't be good, and you have a potential of another, again, criminal being produced, or a very disturbed person. Or they will be put into the adoption agencies, which sometimes can work, and sometimes, there will be kids who end up in great families, but sometimes it doesn't work. And again, they get booted from foster home to foster home, and there are countless horror stories about, kids that have went to terrible foster homes and suffered all sorts of abuse. And I believe that taking the pro-choice position would prevent stuff like that. But yes, there needs to be, we need to admit that there also needs to be some accountability. Pregnancies can be prevented. So that's basically my thoughts overall on this position. Ultimately, I take the pro-choice side. I just think that there needs to be multiple things that are addressed when you're going to argue for that position. And I also, again, just prefer to take a slightly different approach to it. And I'm not barring the people who do make the argument that it's the woman's body, the woman's choice, because like I said in the beginning of this video, yes, ultimately the final decision should come down to the woman because she is carrying, the pregnancy. But again, I think that several other things need to be addressed, several other reasons need to be made why abortion should be necessary, why it should be a choice. And again, it should not be the state's business or the government's business to say whether or not someone can make a medical decision. Now, there are some people who might say, well, I don't want my taxes to go towards abortion. Like, I'm fine with abortion, but I don't want to pay for it, which I can understand, Obviously, again, if it's the result of rape or something, then, I would be, in that instance, I would be okay with some of my tax dollars going towards something like that. However, if you just fucked up and got pregnant, pay for your own abortion. Why should it have to come out of my tax dollars? It's your mistake, not mine. But anyways, that's my thoughts. And again, when it comes to Roe v. Wade, no, I don't think it should be overturned. I think it would be a step backwards. But I also think that it's a very complicated issue with a lot of grayness. So, sum it all up, basically. So, that's it. I know this video might have been a little rambly as usual, but I think you've all come to expect that from me. So, peace, and have a good day.